In the Federalist, there is a great op-ed, The Lessons of Jordan Neely, Your Courage and Sacrifice Will Be Punished. I just want to give a few pieces of this. We have Peachy Keenan on with us in just a second. She says, weakness is strength, courage is hatred. In the aftermath, I tweeted, strong men brave enough to intervene publicly when a deranged lunatic is terrifying people are going to be rounded up first. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant strategy for the regime. Pick off the bravest and most selfless heroes first. Leave the cowards behind, who will all fall in line fast. The worse is the subway Vikings' fate. The worse the Vikings' fate is, the less likely any of us, the sane ones, will be tempted to lift a finger when they come for us, our friends, or our neighbors. If the Viking gets 20 years on Rikers Island, plus some prison rapes and beatings for good measure as the guards look the other way, that'll teach you boys a lesson. She goes on to talk about in this terrible, ugly, upside-down, zero-trust society, I have been forced to raise a family, and I have developed a new survival rule. I have instructed my husband and son to be cowards. That's right, to do nothing if they are in a situation where dangerous psycho is threatening violence on a stranger. I've begged with them to sit on their hands, to be one of the people who just watches, runs away, calls 911. It goes against everything in their bodies, but I want them with me, not dead or in jail. She said, I feel like I have failed as a mother because I forgot to teach my sons to be cowards. I'm hoping this is sarcasm. But Peachy Keenan is here with us. Hi, Peachy.
Hi, Glenn. How are you?
I'm really good, really good. You have a lot of fans here at the program and also at the Blaze, so keep it up.
Thank you so much. Awesome. I love it.
So tell me, I mean, you talk about in this op-ed about your husband. He took on a guy much bigger, and this guy was bothering you. And he won the fight, and you guys got married.
Oh, right. Yeah, I did mention that in that article.
Yeah.
I think he probably would rather I not bring that up. But yeah, he did. I was in a situation like that in New York City. There was a very large, very drunk man who was in my face, harassing me, wouldn't leave me alone. We were outside a bar at night, you can imagine. And my husband just decided, he just acted. And he took the guy down. I mean, he wasn't like harmed that much, but, he maybe got a little bloody nose, and he left us alone and we got out of there. And yeah, at first I was sort of horrified because my my normal instincts as I used to be this sort of like feminist, liberal. And so I was sort of like, oh my gosh, you hurt him, like you're not supposed to do that. But then later, as he kind of nursed his hand, I was like, that was kind of, wow, that was very macho. Like, okay,
yeah.
Yes, I will marry you.
Yeah.
I mean, it did sort of impress me a little bit, like this is a guy who can defend a woman. And that's in short supply these days.
And that's what we're supposed to do. But we have destroyed men so much that most are not going to get up. They're not. They're going to look the other way, hope somebody else is going to deal with it. And I remember right after 9/11, I flew up to New York. I was on one of the first flights to New York, and there were only 4 of us on the plane, and one was this drunk bad guy. And he stood up, and he was arguing with the stewardess. And the other 2 men that were on board with me, we got up and walked to this guy, and the stewardess is like, no, don't. I've got it under control. And we just looked at this guy like, you don't sit down, we'll force you to sit down. And there was this feeling of that's what you do. I mean, what was his name? Todd Beamer.
Todd Beamer, yeah.
Yeah, who ran and saved. We don't do that now. Now we're being taught the exact opposite.
Yeah, I mean, for many years you would get on a plane, and guys I know would tell me every time I got on a plane, I'm looking around, and like they were like kind of ready, just in case there was another situation. They were ready to do what they had to do to save their own lives and to save strangers' lives. But now you can't. because you're going to be filmed, and AOC is going to get the video, and she's going to post it, and she's going to call you a bad guy. And so we live in this upside down world where, safety is, the only safety that they care about now is their constituents' safety from police, from good guys, from good Samaritans. They want to be safe from hate speech, from racism. But your actual physical safety, just going about your daily life, is no one cares. Like, get pushed in front of a train, a violent psychopath on a subway. Those people in that car with Daniel Penny, they thanked him. These were people of color. They said it was a situation like no other. They were so grateful he intervened. But yeah, men can't intervene anymore. People have been, masculinity has really been like totally neutered. Literally and figuratively, boys have been castrated. I mean, that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, what do you think the fate, how do you think this is going to end?
You mean with Daniel Penny?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, well, what is it, going to a grand jury in a few months? I mean, just based on the witness's statement, it seems crazy that they would, even
go after him.
Yeah. I mean, there's no evidence that he did anything, racist, I mean, obviously, or intended to hurt him permanently, to kill him, or obviously it was just this crazy kind of freak accident. And he felt like he had no choice. And his alternative was to sit there while this guy punched someone in the face, or who knows what he would do. No one knew. No one knew what he would do. You can't predict. And he had a split second to decide, and he acted. But, New York City is so crazy. I mean, the fact that they even arrested him after the cops let him go just tells you how crazy they are. It's all ideological. They had Jordan Neely the other day with Al Sharpton in the golden casket, just like I predicted. This thing is so predictable how this will play out, just Floyd Part 2, that it makes me very worried. But, luckily he has, $2.5 million worth of legal aid. So, we'll have to see.
So do you think that a jury even in Manhattan, the people of his peers will be people that have run the subways, been on the subways recently, and the subways are terrifying right now. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Do you think that they would convict him?
Yeah, it really depends who he gets. I mean, the whole notion of, quote, a jury of your peers, I mean, that's just like such a myth. Like, that's just gone. Like, think about who's living in Manhattan these days. And his only hope is like people who maybe kind of typical liberals, Biden voters or whatever, but they're people who are also in the real world, who are dealing with these people on the subways, and they may reject the prosecution's argument totally. But, these people are real dirty. They play real dirty. And if they just want to make it about, they want to put all white people on trial. They want to put anything racist that's ever happened on trial. And this one guy is the fall guy. It's sort of like reverse OJ.
So do you think this is racist? Do you think that they were, the city was afraid of the protesters? Or do you think this is racist, or that they are sending a message to everybody? You have no choice but to sit down and take it.
Probably a little of both, but I think primarily it's about distracting people from the real villain here, which is the city's total neglect of their giant homeless schizophrenic population and their complete inability to do anything about it. And so this is their way of pointing the finger at the guy whose fault it is. Meanwhile, Penny is just another victim in all of this, and so is Jordan Neely. And the real villain, the real person who should be literally in prison for multiple murders, are the authorities who let this happen, who let Michelle Go get pushed in front of a train, last year in New York City, who lets women get raped and stabbed in New York City on subways in their apartments by men that they know about. They have long records. They just let them go. These are the these are the crimes that they should be held accountable for, but they never will. And so instead they just they found a convenient fall guy.
We're talking to Peachy Keenan. She is the American editor, contributing editor, author of a book that comes out next month called Domestic Extremist. One last question. Were you being serious about telling your husband and your son to sit down and don't do anything?
We've had this exact discussion. I mean, it's something I live in fear of whenever my teenage sons leave the house. They're driving around. We live in a big city. God forbid they run into the wrong person. They're Boy Scouts. They've almost to Eagle Scout level. Their instinct is to defend and protect and, be good. They're Catholics, they're Christians, they're moral. And I've actually had this discussion with them and just like, if there's a situation that is going sideways, get out of there. Get out of there. And my sons push back. They're like, well, if there's someone, they're hurting someone, like, I'm going to do something. I'm like, well, look, if it's your little sister, if it's a little kid, like, yes, like that's a situation where maybe you should, put yourself in grave danger. But in a situation between adults, like you just go away before it escalates. Why risk the rest of your life? I mean, it's really sad. I mean, it's one of the reasons that it's scary to live in a Soros DA-run city. I mean, it's very terrifying.
Thank you so much, Peachy. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you again when your book comes out.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Glenn.
You bet. Peachy Keenan. That's a little terrifying. That and I understand that. I understand what she just said.
I think, yeah, I know I have that same instinct at times, and my thought was always, let me fight that stuff out at a larger level. If you're in the middle of one of those situations, now again, if you have to protect someone's life, it's another story. But like, if there's sometimes these situations are just going sideways, and you're in a situation of risk, you got to remove yourself from that risk. We'll try to move society at another moment, but live to try to fight that battle tomorrow. It's an understandable instinct from a parent, I'll tell you that.
Do you remember Bernie Getz?
Oh, yeah.
What mayor, was that Dinkins or was that
Ed Koch?
Ed Koch, maybe?
I don't remember what year. Let's see.
I mean,
back at that.
It's interesting that we deal with these every time the city goes crazy. Every time there's a Democrat that is in office and they destroy the city, crime goes through the roof, and eventually somebody says, enough is enough. No, I'm not taking it. And Bernard Getz was the last time. When you had Rudy Giuliani in office, that wasn't happening.
Yeah, it was Ed Koch, by the way.
Yeah.
1984.
And did he go to jail for it or not?
Gosh, it's been so long.
I know, I don't remember.
Yeah, I have to look back at that. I thought he didn't.
I didn't think so. I think that's why I asked that question this time. Is a jury of their peers going to put him in jail? And I don't think he did. And his was, pulling a gun on a guy. This one is, I think, even harder to send somebody to jail.
He did. Now I'm looking back, and he did serve time in prison, but for something else, right? He had some other. It wasn't for the actual shootings of that day.
Wow.
But
wow.
It's a little. I'd have to read back on it. It's been a long time, but one of the situations where, like, look, again, don't try to mug people on a subway.
Yeah.
This is the best way to avoid such things.